Hello everybody. So today we have Mr. Eric Walker from Lambton College with us. So in today's session, we will be asking few questions on the behalf of our students regarding the courses, co-ops, work opportunities, and PGWP in Canada. So my first question to you is, so students are very confused about whether to choose a public institution or the private one. So what's your call on this?
Yeah, so given the recent changes from the federal government regarding postgraduate work permits, basically all students are going to want to choose going into the future, they're going to want to choose public colleges because private institutions are no longer able to issue the postgraduate work permits to students upon graduation, or they won't be eligible for a postgraduate work permit. So public institutions are still able to keep students eligible for a postgraduate work permit after they graduate. And I know for a lot of students, this is part of the value to this studying in Canada, is being able to apply for a postgraduate work permit after they graduate. So I think for most students, they're going to want to apply to a public institution going forward.
Okay, so my next question is there any difficulty for international students for finding part-time as well as full-time jobs in Canada right now? It's a very major concern nowadays for the students.
Yeah, I understand the concern, and it's going to be different. Like Canada isn't one area. There's lots of different cities and provinces that will have different availabilities of part-time and full-time jobs. But I think in general, and what we'll see going forward with the number of international students set to come down in Canada, that the opportunity for the students who are coming to Canada and students who are currently enrolled is going to increase. So part-time jobs, it's a bit tricky to speak to. Some areas like the Toronto area where there's so many colleges, it may be difficult for students to find part-time jobs because the level of competition is so high. But if students are more willing to branch out from the major Greater Toronto area, there may be more opportunities for them. And in terms of full-time work, again, it's going to be by industry. But because Canada has a population that is, it's really aging quite rapidly. We have a very large baby boomer generation, and many people are going to be retiring over the next 10 years. So I think full-time work, we're going to start to see more opportunity for Canadians and international students going into the future.
Okay. So according to you, what factors should be taken into consideration while choosing a good institution by the student?
Yeah. So they're going to want to consider location, I would say, price and program, and then the school itself and the supports that it offers. So students are going to want to consider, first off, on location, what size of city they want to live in, what cost of living they're comfortable with. And then once they sort of get an idea of where they stand on that, then they can start looking at what program they want to take based on their background and find colleges that may fit into that. And then obviously they want to consider the cost as well. So finding maybe the best program for the lowest tuition costs is something that will be important to students.
Okay, my next question is how good the co-op options in your college, and what about the campus placement these days?
Yes. So most of our postgraduate programs do come with a co-op option included in them. It usually takes place in the final semester, and it's actually seen as a part of the actual curriculum of the program. We do expect most students will be able to find a co-op and do that as a part of their studies. But for those who aren't able to find a co-op, we have the Work Integrated Learning Project available to students to make sure they still graduate with some sort of practical experience related to their field. And the co-op is a collaboration kind of between the college and the student in terms of finding a position. We have a co-op department whose job is dedicated to helping students with finding a co-op position. They'll help them with their interview skills, writing their resume, their cover letter. They'll host job fairs on campus. They'll post positions online for students to apply for. But the student themselves has to go in and interview for these positions and ultimately secure them themselves, as most of the companies are outside of Lambton College. We do have a few programs that are available with a placement. So placement meaning Lambton College will provide you with where you're going to work. Co-op means the student has to apply themselves. So not every program is available with a placement, but the ones that are, obviously it's really great. The student is able to get work experience directly from the college. And we do find with the co-op that most of the students who are academically inclined and they apply for many jobs and they make sure their interview skills are up to snuff, that they are able to find positions for that co-op semester.
Yeah, that's fine. And one major concern we are getting from a student is the housing problem, the housing issue students are facing in this region. So, what's your thought on this? Students are not able to find housing facilities in these areas.
Yeah, I mean, at Lambton College, all of our students have been able to find suitable housing, whether that was at our Toronto or Mississauga campuses, but going forward where we only have Sarnia and Ottawa, last semester in Sarnia, in the September intake for Sarnia, we had over 2,000 international students arrive, and they were all able to find suitable accommodations. I think sometimes students do need to manage their expectations for what proper accommodation is going to cost. Like sometimes students expect they're going to find a place to live for $200 a month or $300 a month, and that's partly why the government has raised the GIC amount now, is to more accurately reflect the cost of living in Canada. So if a student does have a budget that is in line with what it's actually going to cost in Canada and in the city they're going to study, and they do their research ahead of time, and like with Lambton College, if they work with their housing department before they arrive, we haven't seen any issues with students in finding housing, at least from the Lambton College perspective. Maybe in other cities and other colleges that I can't speak to, they do have that issue, but from my perspective, I haven't seen too much of a problem.
That's great. And at last, according to you, why Canada is the better choice for the international students to study?
Yes, so I still think, and even though there's been some changes to the international student program, the reduced numbers weren't made to punish students. It was more made to accurately reflect how many international students Canada can accommodate in terms of both places to live and employment. So really these changes are meant to benefit the students and give them a better chance of being successful in Canada. Yes, the GIC amount has increased, but again, this is to benefit the students and make sure that they're prepared to pay the amount of cost to live in Canada. And now with the reduced intake coming into Canada for September and going forward, I think we're going to see more opportunities for students in part-time jobs and less pressure on the housing market. Again, making it easier for students who are coming in the future to succeed. In the past, there's been a really large number of international students, and that sort of made it more competitive for finding jobs, for finding housing. So I think the government has taken the necessary steps to sort of improve the situation for new international students who are arriving. So these changes are more putting Canada in a better position to take international students and have them be successful.
Yeah. And any advice you want to give to our students?
Advice for the students, I mean, definitely do your research, make sure you're looking at all the available options for you. I would make sure you're considering costs as well. I mean, I know for a lot of students, Toronto, Vancouver, very attractive areas, but they are a lot more costly to live in. And the tuition fees in those colleges in those areas can be quite expensive. So just make sure you're also sort of, and maybe you do want to go to Toronto and that's okay, but also you can explore the regions that are outside of that area, like Ottawa, Sarnia, Lambton College's locations, but then other areas as well. London, Ontario, Sudbury, Thunder Bay. Like there's lots of different locations that maybe students look over that they could do more research on and maybe find that they would actually like living there and studying there. So just, I would say, focusing on the research, taking into account the costs, and just making sure you're happy with the program you take as a career choice. Because sometimes students will just want to rush into whatever program they can get admitted to the quickest, but this doesn't lead to the career satisfaction that they want. So make sure that you are leaning towards studying something that you think you'll be happy doing as a career.
Thank you so much, Alec, for your time, and I hope this session is very useful for the students and their queries has been resolved.
Yeah.
So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Thank you.